Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, fortunately, I am back. Five time. We are at episode 5 of Brian versus the Dirtsheets. You know, I've loved and appreciated all the feedback that I've gotten on the first 4 episodes. We're gonna keep pushing forward here, putting out more and more episodes. I love the support, y'all. You know, keep sharing, keep watching, whether it's on X retweeting or sharing the links on Instagram. Please keep watching and keep sharing, and I'm going to keep putting out this exciting content that we have from the Soapbox Network. So as always, we're going to jump right into it, and we got some juicy topics this week. We're going to start with this one: Swerve Strickland and PW Mania. Okay, so this is actually something that this wasn't like an official report. This was actually something that I physically saw on social media, more specifically X, last week, after a couple of days after we recorded episode number 4. So Swerve did an interview with the Battleground podcast, and he was pretty much describing AEW's AEW Grand Slam that took place in Arena de Mexico, which was the joint show that they did with the CMLL. And within that interview, you know, he gives a lot of quotes about the experience of being in Mexico. I'm going to read one of those quotes right now. You know, he was talking about, he was praising the energy of the crowd and the way it elevated the show for both the fans and performers. He said the following, and I quote, "They took it over the edge. They made the show so much more enjoyable from not only just the people in the arena, but it made it enjoyable for the people watching at home. Seeing Mystico get the reception that he got and the match with MJF was unworldly. It made you appreciate the superstars so much more." And so pretty much the whole entire interview, you know, he's giving positive quotes like this, pretty much describing the experience. We saw, to those who actually watched it on television, it was a great presentation. They didn't have any backstage segments, so they really went from match to match to match to match. So the show, for me, pacing wise, it flowed very well. The crowd was into it, like he said, and it was a very good show. I enjoyed it very much. But here is where PW Mania took things to another level. So within this interview, Swerve talks about Hangman Adam Page's opening promo, which he spoke in Spanish for the crowd. Talked about like his history. I think he first talked about how he learned Spanish, how he knew how he became familiar with such. It was pretty much a good promo. It was pretty much a positive promo talking about Mexico, his relationship with Mexico and such. And Swerve was pretty much talking about that promo, and pretty much Swerve pretty much said like the promo like speaks volumes about Page's respect for the fans, and pretty much like positions him as like the face of AEW in the sense of Hangman Page. And Swerve commented on it. He said, in regards to the promo, that shows respect, that we're not here to take over your company, we're here to be guests in your home. So PW Mania, they obviously were reporting on the interview, and they did a whole article on it for their website, and they posted a link for that article onto their X account, which they used the headline. They used the headline in that quote: "Swerve Strickland on CMLL. We're not here to take over your company. Period." So if you go on X and you go on PW Mania's page and you wanted to read the article, that's exactly what the headline said. "Swerve on CMLL. We're not here to take over your company. Period." Swerve sees this, and then like he retweeted it. He retweeted the article, but then he put in the caption, and I'm about to look it up right now. So Swerve retweets the article, and then he states in the retweet, "Now finish my statement for clarity." Now, the entire statement says, "We're not here to take over your company. We're here to be guests in your home." But PW Mania decided to put the headline out there to cut off the "we're here to be guests in your home" and just focus on we're here we're not here to take over your company. Which any fan could easily interpret that Swerve may have taken a cheap shot at WWE with their relationship with their partnership with the AAA. A lot of people speculate as to say that WWE is essentially trying to create a monopoly with the purchase of AAA. You see the reports about how like they're trying to essentially teach AAA how to produce and book matches the WWE way. If you listen to Keeping It Up with Conan, listening to Conan's podcast, shout out to those guys. They talk about how they pretty much had to come in and pretty much teach everybody the WWE way of doing things. So it's very easy that a fan could take that headline on X and essentially take it as, oh, Swerve is taking shots at WWE and their partnership because obviously of the rivalry between AAA and CMLL, and obviously some people look at WWE and AEW and say it's a turf war between both companies. Some people don't feel that way, but it's you can very easily interpret that by reading that headline. You would interpret that, oh, Swerve is taking cheap shots at WWE and AAA's partnership. Fucking PW Mania. Like, there are so many other titles you could have gone with, and I still think people would have been interested in clicking on your title. You could have been like Swerve Strickland on CMLL, and you could have referenced one of the first quotes I read about the vibe being in Arena de Mexico. You could have had Swerve Strickland on CMLL or Swerve Strickland on Mystico, and then put in the quote about his match with MJF. There are so many other positive aspects within that interview that Swerve had done, where you could have made the headline reflect that positivity instead of reflecting negativity. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of fans looked at that headline where you cut off a portion of his statement and immediately clicked on the headline, thinking that they were going to get a juicy dirt sheet interview with fucking Swerve, taking shots at WWE. That's exactly what your fucking goal was. Clickbait. And that's a lot of shit. That's a lot of the things that these dirt sheet reporters do, with their articles. Whenever they post them on X or post them on Instagram or post like a snippet of it on X or Instagram with the link, there's always a juicy headline to get you the click. And some people will look at it and say, "Oh, bro, that's a part of the business. That's how you get viewers. That's how you make money. You gotta essentially trick them in a sense to read your article." And I'm just like, yeah, but you playing that trick, so to say, just pissed off a talent that had to retweet your article for you to complete his headline. And again, this goes back to episode 2 when I talked about the report that Dave Meltzer had reported in regards to Kevin Owens and his injury, putting the talent in the position where then they have to come out and essentially re-clarify what they were saying or whatever is reported. Because again, you can take a fucking clear look at that article or a clear look at that headline that was posted on X, and then just assume that, oh, Swerve is taking cheap shots at WWE and AAA, when all he was just doing was just talking about the positive vibe about that show, Grand Slam, in Arena in Mexico. That's all he was trying to do. But then here comes PW Mania, and I love how when Swerve retweeted it, PW Mania then commented under it, and they said, "All love and respect to @Swerve Confident. We meant the headline as a tribute to the respectful message you conveyed about AEW CMLL. If we misrepresented the intent, we're happy to update. Appreciate the powerful comments." Shut the fuck up. You did not mean the headline as a tribute to the respectful message that Swerve had conveyed. Because there were plenty of other fucking quotes and statements within that interview, within that article that you could have used if you were trying to positively convey Swerve's message. There were plenty of other statements you could have picked out. You could have picked, like I said, the mystical MJF, his comments about that. You could have even picked out how Hangman is essentially the face of AEW right now. You could have mentioned that quote. There's so many other direct quotes you could have taken out of this article if you wanted to convey what the fuck Swerve was trying to say. What happened was You were trying to use clickbait to get people interested in reading your article, and Swerve essentially called you out on it and said, "Finish my fucking statement." And then you guys want to crown up and say, "Oh no, we're sorry. You guys know exactly what the fuck you guys were doing, PW Mania. You know exactly what the fuck you were doing. You were trying to use Swerve as clickbait to get people to click on and read your article about some shit that he didn't even say. He did not allude to AAA or WWE and their partnership in the article, but anybody can clearly read your headline and then come up with that conclusion. PW Mania. I just find it funny because then when he called you guys out on it, then you guys want to climb up and say, "Oh no, we didn't mean to do that." Sometimes in life, when you see shit like that, it's like, come on, man. I mean, you're a reporter, right? Use common fucking sense. You guys weren't using this cutoff headline to positively convey anything. You were using that headline as possible clickbait to get fans to read your article because they were going to assume that Swerve maybe have been taking cheap shots at WWE and AAA's partnership. That's what the fuck you guys were trying to do. Don't play with me. Don't play with us. Don't lie to us, motherfuckers. Trying to bring down another another fellow superstar with your bullshit clickbait tricks. Fuck out of here. Anyway, next story. Meltzer, you motherfucker. Here you are again, putting out more bullshit about CM Punk and his interaction with a fan during the Night of Champions kickoff event. Okay, so let me try to give as much background to this as possible. So before CM Punk joined AEW, he was on a show called WWE Backstage on Fox. Now, I remember during this time, some people were speculating that CM Punk was working for WWE, but no. The show was created by Fox, and Fox was paying CM Punk, not WWE. So when CM Punk was on this show, I think from what I recall, I think he was on there with Paige, Renee Paquette, and Renee Young at the time, and then Booker T. So one week, Miz was on the show, and I guess apparently when the show was wrapping up, they WWE Backstage had tweeted out a video of Miz making the following comments when the show was wrapping up, that like, "Oh yeah, now we're done with WWE Backstage. They're taking the microphones off me now. It was great. It was amazing. I felt like this was the best ever WWE Backstage produced. It was the best ever." Then Renee asked him, "What do you mean? What do you mean it was the best? What do you mean it was the best ever? Name one that was better." And, it was pretty much a back and forth between him and Renee. And then Miz kind of took a cheap shot at Punk and said that like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't change the culture. My bad. Because on a previous episode of WWE Backstage, and then like one of the final segments, CM Punk had made the comment. It's as simple as this: just when they think they got the answers, I changed the culture." So CM Punk had made that comment, and then Miz kind of took a cheap shot with him in the video, which then made Punk clap back on Twitter at the time and make the following statement. He said, "Go suck a blood money covered dick in Saudi Arabia, you fucking dork." Okay. So obviously this was in 2021. So this was 4 years ago. So you already know if it's on the internet, it lives in infamy. All right. So when Punk went back to WWE, so when Punk returned to WWE, there were a couple of Saudi shows that were booked that initially he wasn't booked on, and some would speculate that it was because of this tweet. But Night of Champions this past Saturday, he was booked in the main event for a undisputed title match against John Cena. So it was his first trip to Saudi Arabia. Now, even before he took the trip, immediately, former fans of his, podcasters who used to be fans of his, people who aren't fans of him at all, they immediately called the hypocrisy. They go back to the tweet and pretty much saying like, oh, you talked all this shit about Saudi Arabia with your comment towards the Miz, but yet here you are 4 years later going over there and essentially making that blood money that you were describing in that comment that you made the Miz. So many people, commented on it. So many people made videos about it. Calling him a hypocrite and all this other stuff. Me personally, and I know a lot of people are gonna look at me sideways when I say this. Me personally, I really don't give a shit. I really don't. I really don't care. You want to know why I don't care? Because this type of shit happens in many industries across the world. How many times have people said that they won't work with somebody, or that morally they won't do something, but then as soon as you flash some money and some dollars, all of a sudden they forget their morals and they jump into whatever they said that they weren't going to jump into. This is the world we live in. We live in a capitalist society. It's all about money. So some people compromise their morals to go after the money, and I see this shit so often that when I see people being critical of it, it's just like, essentially this is kind of the norm now with some people. That's just how some people are. Now, me personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care what Phil Brooks does outside of the ring like that. As far as like like maybe his political opinions and all that other political opinions, or how he feels about certain rights and issues. That don't matter to me. I'm entertained by CM Punk in the ring on my TV or on my phone or on my iPad when I'm watching him. I could care less about all that other stuff. Okay, that's besides the point. So this report, I might say, based upon all that backstory I told about Miz and CM Punk, this report pretty much states Meltzer claimed, because during that kickoff show, when Punk initially had come out, the fans were booing him essentially because of this tweet. Like I said, if it lives on the internet, it lives in infamy. So they were complaining to him about this tweet, and they were booing him about this tweet. And then essentially there was a fan that was sitting by the barricade that was pretty much screaming out to him for him to essentially apologize for his comments. And from what I saw in the video, I'm not gonna say the fan was aggressive, but you can definitely see like the passion that they call it in his eyes. And he pretty much wanted Punk to apologize. So then Punk grabbed the mic, went on the stage, essentially said that he woke up in a bad mood, made a negative comment, and he gave what some felt was a heartfelt apology. Dave Meltzer and many others criticized the interaction, saying that it was staged, and he pretty much said, and Dave Meltzer code, that obviously that was planned. Obviously, someone wanted him to apologize, and he did. He's not exactly the apologetic type, for one thing. And if you're going to apologize, I don't know if this is the thing you apologize for, given his political viewpoints and everything. And then he went on and pretty much expressed that like he's not surprised by the fact that WWE had him apologize. And then he went further and said all the time he was there, they always protected him. Like they protect people from this type of thing, and they did not, and they didn't protect him at all. They ran an angle that made him look bad. They did this. They made him apologize. Triple H was like, "Oh, it's so grown for him to apologize." The more I read some of these reports, sometimes I just would be wishing that somebody would smack the hell out of Dave Meltzer sometimes. Like, I be thinking like, does Dave Meltzer be like sniffing crack or like doing cocaine or doing some type of illegal drug whenever he types up these reports, or whenever he hears back from his bullshit ass sources, or whatever the fuck he may be doing? So you guys really think that WWE would go that far into planting a fan to make CM Punk come off better because he was supposed to be the babyface in this match with John Cena? Okay, well let's look at what happened. If you remember on SmackDown, first of all, I've already said the John Cena heel turn has kind of been a failure at this point because when John Cena comes out, John Cena is still getting the 100% big pop babyface reaction. So this past Saturday on SmackDown, past Friday on SmackDown, John Cena comes out. He's still getting the big babyface reaction. And when he was alluding to CM Punk, the crowd was booing him, was still booing CM Punk. And so much so they came up with a clever way to kind of hide the boos with Punk coming out and with John Cena's gear, his music, the old classic basic Thugonomics theme song, and they were very clever with it. But even with that, when Punk came out, people were still booing. People were still booing certain aspects in the promo because essentially was him doing a rap promo, and like obviously there were certain points and certain words where like the fans like missed it because because Punk's delivery of it wasn't really in like a true hip hop sense. So it was a little off, but like the words he was using made sense, and because of that, fans were still booing. So why would they plant a fan? Well, first of all, if they did it with the goal of CM Punk not getting booed, it would have failed miserably. But why the fuck would they go that far? First of all, at the end of the day, like I said, when you make a comment on the internet, it lives on the internet in infamy. No matter if you delete it or not, somebody's gonna find it. Someone's gonna take a screenshot of it, and you're gonna see it for the rest of your life. So he made his comments years ago, and obviously the people of Saudi Arabia, I think in any country is gonna remember that shit. So why the fuck would you think? So why would you think that they would plant a fan just so he can get a positive reaction for a storyline that was only going to exist for one match, one PLE match anyway? As much as I felt like this story should have extended longer, it was only going to be this one match. It was only going to be one night. And realistically, the way the match ended, with Rollins coming out and everybody coming out and with that overbooked finish, it wouldn't have fucking mattered. Because in the direction that they were going in, it was only going to be this one match. So it wasn't going to matter. It wasn't going to matter. I don't. It's like Dave Meltzer. It's like in his mind, it doesn't matter who's running WWE. He still looks at WWE like Vince McMahon is in charge, and that just because you still got Triple H, you still got Bruce Pritchard, and you got a couple of other employees, that essentially the culture of WWE is still the same. It's still the same, and that they still would do certain negative things that Vince McMahon would do. Dave, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why the fuck? Matter of fact, not even just you, other motherfuckers out there who even speculate that they would go as far as just to plant a fan to make an apology. Number one, and number two, more importantly, I think CM Punk was going to apologize anyway. You didn't need to plant a fan to have an apology. I'm pretty sure CM Punk knew going into Saudi Arabia with the way that the fans are, and with how people and with how the internet is, he knew he was going to get booed. He knew he was going to have to answer for some of his comments. They didn't need to plant a fucking fan to do that, Dave. There you go again. Like I said, Meltzer, you motherfucker. And we go into our last topic. And this one actually kind of hurts me too, because, I kind of, generalize all dirt sheet reporters in episode 1, kind of express my feeling towards them. Like, like I said before, they may have 20% of it right, and then they'll make up the other 80% and then put it out there. And then their myriads of followers either believe it or they don't believe it. And then they treat it like it's fact when the majority of it is rooted in opinion. But this one, this one is going to be kind of tough for me, because there are some reporters that I have somewhat of a little bit more respect for than others, and one of them is Wade Keller. And to keep it a buck with you, The only reason why I feel that way is only because Eric Bischoff co-signed him at one point. I remember, I think it was either on 83 Weeks or one of the live shows that Eric Bischoff was doing on YouTube. He talked about Wade Keller in a positive manner, and because I'm such a fan of Eric Bischoff, I kind of looked at Wade Keller as one of those reporters that, like, okay, all these other ones may be full of shit, but at least Wade is somewhat legit. So if it's coming from him, there may be some validity to it. Not no more, baby. Oh man, Wade in the water. Wade. He put out a quote. So Karrion Kross. He's a guy that it's tough for me to talk about Karrion Kross because I remember when he debuted in NXT, Fall and Pray, the entrance when with Scarlett and everything. I mean, his NXT run was probably one of the best NXT runs ever. I mean, he was champion very quick. He was dominant. And he got the shoulder surgery. He ended up with that shoulder surgery, which kind of halted his momentum. But then he came back, stronger, more dangerous. And he's a great character. He's great on the mic, and it's very puzzling as to why we're not seeing more of Karrion Kross. The promo that he cut during WrestleMania after WrestleMania was kind of a worked shoot promo. To the documentary that he put on his YouTube page, talking about his whole experience at WrestleMania and such. Karrion Kross is definitely a guy that deserves to be pushed and should be getting more opportunities. So Wade Keller on his PW Porch podcast essentially speculated that WWE is not pushing Karrion Kross right now because Karrion Kross does not like taking flat back bumps. So Wade essentially claimed that even back when Kross was in NXT and when he just had left TNA, that some of the wrestlers that he worked with believed that his way of taking bumps could cause problems on the main roster. So on the actual podcast, he says the following. He says, I talked about this when he was all the rage in NXT and coming out of TNA. I was like, wrestlers are telling me when he gets to the main roster, nobody's gonna put up with the fact that he doesn't take bumps. He's scared to bump. He doesn't take flat back bump. He doesn't take a flat back bump. I don't know if he's got an injury or a concern, like he favors one side, which can cause an injury. So I don't know if he has a pre-existing condition or he's just not comfortable taking bumps. And yeah, so essentially he speculates that other talent had informed him that because he doesn't like to take flat back bumps, that's going to be a problem moving forward in the future for him. So again, here we go again with the speculations from other talents and putting the talent that's being talked about in a fucking position where then they got to come out and clarify shit. And then Kross had to then come out and pretty much say in response to the article, to the report, I thought out of all the crazy articles that I fabricated about me every week, this was the weakest. There was another wild one I saw last week that was even funnier. It said something like Karrion Kross is going to come to Monday Night Raw. He's going to quit and do a shoot promo and then walk out. I thought that was a good one, but I don't really respond to any of them. There's a crazy one about me every week or two. You just kind of have to laugh. You're right about that, Kross, because I'm laughing right now. I'm laughing at fucking Wade Keller. Wade, man. Why the fuck would you even speculate something like that? Especially something so foolish. There are so many holes that you can poke in that, and I'm gonna poke in each one. One, to me, unless it's an injury issue, you saw that with Ric Flair. I can remember watching Ric Flair, and like I can always like back in like 92, 93, watching old Ric Flair matches, you can always watch that whenever he never did a flat back bump. But there was a reason for that. He always would turn to his side or something like that. That's only because of the back injury he suffered when he got that when he in the plane ride in the plane crash where he ended up with a broken back. So and then he had the back surgery, and then after that he could never take flat back bumps. He always had to turn on his side. Unless that's the reason why, there really is no reason. There really is no reason to speculate that somebody will refuse to take flat back bumps. Like, I remember watching Tough Enough back in the day. That's the first bump. That's the first activity. The first activity that they had the talent. They had the prospect of talent doing when they got into the ring. First thing that they do, you learn how to fall. Flat back bump. That's the first thing that you learn how to do. So if you can't even fucking do that, that's not even a cause for having you on the fucking roster. Like, why would you waste your time signing a guy that refuses to take flat back bumps? Again, if it's an injury issue and you're working around it and you're doing what Ric Flair did, okay. But if it's a situation where you're just refusing to take them for no fucking reason at all, just because you don't want to take them, that's a cause for not having somebody on the roster. And I know when Wade kind of speculates in this article, it's more so it could be an injury, but again, could, should, would. He doesn't give us exact reason why. He doesn't give an exact reason why, but you can read it and interpret it as him saying, oh, he just doesn't want to take flat back bumps just for the fucking hell of it. He just doesn't want to do it. Kross is just lazy. Which, again, bullshit. If anything that's lazy, that report is lazy as fuck. That's lazy ass reporting. And then number two, your source on this article. Your source is fucking the talent that he worked with in TNA on his way to NXT, or other talent who commented on him making the jump to NXT. How do you not fucking know that talent that you're talking to is actually bitter as fuck at him? How do you not know it's a talent that had a bad experience working with him, just because sometimes styles create fights, sometimes some talent that doesn't mix together, and then you work together and then you try to work, and at the end of the day, sometimes two talent aren't compatible. How do you not know that was somebody feeling some type of way about a poor experience that he had with Karrion Kross in the ring? How do you not know it's somebody that's bitter as hell that Karrion Kross is actually having success elsewhere, and that talent isn't having the same success? So your source is our other wrestlers, other talent who can fucking bullshit and lie more than anybody. Talent fabricates shit more than anybody. They can easily, if they're not where they want to be in the wrestling business, where they want to be, they will easily throw shade and pettiness at somebody else that's already ascending to that level. So your source is wrong. So your source is bullshit. The concept of it about flat back bumps in general is just some bullshit. And it's very frustrating because, like, again, Wade Keller was a guy that, you know, Eric Bischoff swore by him. A couple of others have sworn by him. But then when I see bullshit like this, it's just like, Wade, come on, man. At least get better fucking sources, because that's fucking ridiculous. Like I said, that is a prime example of lazy reporting. Come on, Wade, get better. You're better than that, please. So that brings us to the end of episode 5 of Brian with the Dirtsheets. We're five episodes strong right now. Again, thank you guys all for the support and love. We're gonna keep this train moving forward. We're gonna keep putting out more episodes, more content, and thank you all for the love and support. I love y'all. We're gonna move. I love on. Excuse me. I love y'all. We're gonna move on. And then the closing note. You see the hat? You know what that means? This is my fucking show, and I'm mad at motherfucker. Now, again, I'm about to go smoke a blunt. Peace.